This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Welcome to Community Close-Up. I'm your host, Sharen Skelly. And today we have Emily Jolliffe as our guest. And Emily is the Director and Chief Curator from Billy Bishop Museum, Home and Museum. Welcome, Emily.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I guess we could start talking about all the programming that is going to be back at the museum. The last 2 years have been a little unusual for everyone. With COVID, there have been shutdowns and then partial openings and virtual programming, a mix of everything. So now you're sort of back into what we'll call regular programming. Is that what you would say?
Yes, we're back to our regular scheduled programming here. And it actually is all going to kick off this Friday. Saturday, actually, we have our Fire and Ice Gala, our fundraising gala, which we weren't able to have for the past 2 years. So that's really exciting. Unfortunately, ticket sales are done now, but we did have a very good turnout and lots of very generous sponsors and local donations this year. So it's going to be quite the ladies' night on Saturday at the Best Western Inn on the Bay.
For our viewers that aren't familiar with that fundraiser, can you tell them a little bit about it, even if they're not going to attend? Can you tell them what it's all about?
Sure, of course. It is our largest fundraising gala event for the museum, and it's been a staple in our community for about 10 years. Would have been 12, but since we missed those two, I think we're back to 10. Can't count the ones that didn't happen. And it's a women's only event, and mostly it's female-owned businesses that attend. It's a beautiful sit-down meal at the Best Western that is served usually by local firemen and businessmen. And they're the only men in attendance, the volunteers that serve the ladies their dinner. And then there is a live purse auction that has 5 beautiful donated purses. And inside one of the purses is our ice, which is this year diamond and sapphire ring generously donated by DC Tailors. But the ladies don't know which purse has the ring. So you can vote for maybe the most beautiful one, the most expensive one, maybe a secondhand one, and you just don't really know what you're going to get. You might just walk away with the purse and you might walk away with the ice.
That's right. So that's the grab. And yes, it is it is the biggest fundraiser for Billy Bishop Home and Museum. Is it Billy Bishop Home and Museum?
I did a little rebrand earlier, about 2 years ago. We are just going by Billy Bishop Museum now because it's easier. I think it rolls off the tongue better. Yeah.
Yes, I thought it, but I remember it being Billy Bishop Home and Museum at one time.
It was Billy Bishop Home and Museum, a National Historic Site, and that's just such a long name. We are a National Historic Site, though. So
that's right, we are. So that fundraiser has. You can't buy a ticket now.
Not anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah. Now, ticket sales were good?
Yeah, they were very good. I think that the people in our community are ready and raring to get back out there. They want to be a part of some fun programming and events, and I think it's time to get going here.
Uh-huh. People still want to donate to things, but they also want to get back into that donating charity, but they also want to get into the being participants in charity.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, virtual events really helped us through and were great, and people were still supporting us, but it is different to be able to do it in person. And it's so nice to be able to see people's faces and talk face to face.
It is so nice to see people. It's just wonderful. It's like, I don't know. It's just like you haven't seen people in forever. It's only been 2 years, but it's, it's not that bad, but still. And we still saw people, but we saw them on computers and it's different. Yeah. Now with this event, how are you managing that event with COVID? Are there restrictions or it's just regular, like go sit down and?
Yeah, it's just regular go sit down. It's up to the guests to if they want to wear a mask or not, whatever they're comfortable with. The staff and volunteers will be wearing masks just to keep it as safe as possible. And again, it's just the same as our Ontario government mandate. Basically, you do what you're comfortable with. We're not checking for vaccine passports or anything. I don't know if anybody's doing that anymore.
No, I don't know either. It's kind of a hodgepodge of whatever.
It
really
is.
messed up. I don't think there really are any rules anymore. We'd like there to be, but there aren't. Okay, so are you going to be having those Victorian teas for the summer?
Yes, we are. We're going to be having 4 sit-down backyard Victorian teas, and they're quite lovely outside in our backyard. And last year we were able to have them because of the outside nature, and it was safe to have things outside. So we were supported by a local quartet string group called Rose and Dust, and then they would play beautiful live music. Yeah, so hopefully they'll agree to come back, and we might get some other fun speakers or other musicians in the area to come for those events. My summer staff, I was very fortunate this year to receive funding from Canada Summer Jobs as well as Young Canada Works. So I have a few summer staff coming on. I only have one started right now, so we'll have to get planning when the others start in July.
For anyone that hasn't been to the Victorian teas, they are simply fabulous. They are so much fun. Like you say, going outside for tea is lovely. Mm-hmm. And you can get dressed up, you wear a hat, you don't have to, but it's fun. And you get, well, it depends on the tea, I guess, but when I went, there was sandwiches and scones. But the best part is the tea. We had, I don't know if they have it at all of them, the Billy Bishop tea.
Yes.
And, well, actually, for those who don't know about Billy Bishop tea, can you tell them the story about Billy Bishop tea?
Sure. We have a beautiful homemade tea from a local woman, and it's called Billy's Blend Tea, and it's got a mix of orange and maple, and it has a really beautiful story, which is on the label of the tea, and you can purchase that tea on our website as well as in our gift shop. And we're really lucky to have 2 additional teas. We have Lovely Louise now, which is a white tea, and Louise was Billy's younger sister. I'm actually sitting in her childhood bedroom right now, and she owned and lived in the home the longest. So we have Lovely Louise in honor of her, and then we also have Into the Clouds, which is another lovely blend, all available in our gift shop.
And the story behind Billy Bishop tea, though, is the one where he would go out and sliding in the orange crate into the rose bushes. Yes. And that's why they have the orange and the rose blend on the maple. And that's where they came up with Billy Bishop Blend Tea. And it's just a lovely story. And I mean, and the tea is wonderful. So I don't know who came up with that, but somebody is so creative. And to be able to buy it and in remembrance of him as a young boy. I mean, it's just, who did come up with that?
The local businesswoman, she's actually just outside of Tiverton on Highway 21. She makes the tea from her home. I'm trying to remember her name right now, but she's really wonderful, and she's agreed to do even more teas for us. So we're very fortunate.
Think of that. To think of the story and I mean, just incredible. I love that idea. So if you go to the teas, you get the tea, you get the experience of seeing the Billy Bishop home. You get to have the fellowship of other people, and it's just a wonderful luncheon. I highly recommend going to those teas, and it's really something that's you learn when you go there. It's enriching. You get to learn about Billy Bishop. So you see at a beautiful home, and you see the gardens, and it's just worthwhile. And when I went, there was a lady celebrating her 90th birthday with her family, and that was their birthday gift to her. The family took her for her birthday. So what a wonderful birthday gift.
Yeah, I love to hear that. That's wonderful.
I mean, great idea. I mean, they were smart to think that ahead and do that for their mother. So you mentioned summer volunteers, but I'm sure you need volunteers for other things than just during the summer. So how do you recruit volunteers, or do you need volunteers right now?
We actually do need volunteers right now. And if you go on our website, it's billybishopmuseum.org/volunteer, and there's a form you can fill out online. There are many different roles that you can have at the museum. We need dedicated volunteers, and those are the lovely people that sit at the front desk and welcome guests into the museum. And that's pretty much the heaviest role, and you have to be available once a week for 4 hours at a time to do that. But there are many other roles as well, such as helping out with events. So you can be on our events committee, and then you would just be working special events. There's also, we need a new treasurer for our board of directors. So if you want to sit on the board of directors with Billy Bishop Museum, you can apply via our website. And we're always looking for fresh faces, new ideas, and new people. And if you have a think, wow, Billy Bishop Museum needs a board member. I don't know much about Billy Bishop or airplanes. You might not think it's for you, but we're really a community museum, and we're looking for a very diverse background of people. So if you think, well, they wouldn't have this skill set, like I'm a farmer, or I'm a grocery store clerk, and we won't have your perspective. So come on in, drop off your resume. We'd love to hear from you and what you want to see in your local museum.
Right. So, and everyone's opinion and everyone's perspective is welcome at the Billy Bishop Museum. Now, you have summer programming. Do you have it planned already?
Well, we have a general idea. Our very popular ghost walks will be coming back this summer. Our fabulous tour guide, James Giverson, will be going around the city and giving his tours. So everyone's very excited about that. And he has a wonderful flair for drama and theater. He's actually also a volunteer at the Roxy Theater. So you get a good show for that tour. And we have a kids camp coming up in July, a week-long kids camp.
Oh, tell us about that.
It's a day camp, and the summer staff will be running it. Tickets will be available on our website. Not yet, though. We're just setting them up. So we have to work on the details, but it's a really fun time, and the staff put a lot of effort into the programming. Lots of fun educational games, as well as day trips out and about around the downtown core to visit parks and go to Kelso Beach and things like that. It's just a bit of fun along with your education through the museum.
So it's week long or one day?
It's week long, but kids can sign up for one day if they want, or the whole week. Okay. And it's ages 5 through 13.
Oh, 5 to 13. Okay. So they can sign up on the website.
Yes, on the website, on the events page of the website. Hopefully we'll have all of our summer events, ticketed events up on the website for the beginning of June, so people can keep an eye out and get booked early. I know that's good to plan.
Uh-huh. And you have a Facebook page too, right?
Yes, we do. Billy Bishop Museum home Facebook page, and we also have a business Facebook page. So you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And they have sort of like reminders about this programming on, well, that's great. Now you have another, it's pretty interesting and emotional exhibit coming up, and it's a veteran curated exhibit coming up. Can you tell us about that one?
Yeah, I would love to. I'm actually sitting in one of our exhibit rooms right now, Louise's bedroom. It's currently called The Unseen, 75 Years in the Canadian Armed Forces. And through this work on this exhibit, I contacted local veterans that I knew personally in the area and asked them to bring their stories and their objects for display at the museum, because I wanted to see what they would say and what they wanted shown. And through that work, which I did 2 years ago, I discovered that many of the Afghanistan veterans have a ton of stuff, and they have a lot of stories that they need to get out there. So I decided to do a dedicated Afghanistan exhibit using the stories and the words of the veterans themselves. So it has been a very, like as you said, it's been an emotional process I think that it's really important to get these stories out there and have these veterans heard. And I think it's been a very good time for it as well, what with the Taliban taking over in the summer, and then also Ukraine, the war in Ukraine is bringing back memories for these veterans, and it's hitting very close to home for many of them.
Now, this exhibit already, it's just in the process of being completed?
Yes, we're actually currently conducting interviews with the veterans. We are going to be making a film of their stories. So we're editing that as well as doing more interviews. So if anyone is a veteran, veteran of the war in Afghanistan, or if they have a story or a perspective that they'd like to add, they can contact me at the museum. We'll be doing interviews all through the year, I think, to add to this, just because we want to get as many stories recorded as possible. Veterans can contribute as much or as little as they're comfortable with. I'm trying to get the exhibit up for the beginning of June. We're just in the initial stages of sort of designing the room, and it's going to be really all it's going to be are these interviews of the veterans. So it's going to be their stories, their words, and you can hear them in their own words. I'm not going to speak to them. I'm not going to do any text other than what they say. So it's just been a process of trying to get all that organized. We've done about 10 interviews so far and have quite a lot of footage. So it's going to be a really interesting exhibit, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it will be interesting. Have you ever done veterans from Bosnia? Have you done any of those interviews?
Yeah, so in the room I'm in now, in the unseen, we have a case about Bosnia-Herzegovina from the perspective of Master Warrant Officer Stephen Lehman. And it's got his objects, items from NATO, and his helmet and uniform and things like that, and a map. So if you'd like to learn a little bit about Bosnia, we have that here in this room. We also have some items from Mike Woodross, and he was served in Haiti, and he brought in some very interesting items. He was with the Airborne. We have a little bit on the Korean War and some items from veterans from Korea. And then we have a little bit of Afghanistan, just kind of the taster of Afghanistan. This basically is going to be a whole room, hopefully any day now. Yeah.
Yes, because I know there's a few veterans in the area from Bosnia, Herzegovina, yeah. And yes, they are very emotional stories that you hear from them, and the Airborne. You know, they're recent conflicts, and I'm sure they're having a difficult time now with all the news that they hear. So it would bring up all of those memories. So what you do at the Billy Bishop Museum isn't just, as you say, Billy Bishop. It's far more than that. It's a military history.
Yeah, we try to collect stories of the Canadian global war experience. So, and not just that, I want to hear from refugees. I want to hear from, we did a peace project a few years ago, but right before COVID, where we had grade 12 students interview a bunch of different community groups from around Owen Sound and ask them all, what does peace mean to you? And all these people had a different interesting answer because they all had different lived experiences. So yes, it is a military museum, but we are really community minded, and we want to be welcoming for everyone. And we want, as I said before, everyone's voice to be heard. So we're also working on, before I forget, we have a military heritage trail, which you can access from our website, and it's on a QR code in the building as well. And it's a military heritage walk all around the downtown of Owen Sound. And we're working on a second or third loop, and it's going to be in the Greenwood Cemetery. So you can go up to the Greenwood Cemetery with your phone or smart device and learn all about the different markers and gravestones there. There's the 3 Victoria Cross recipients are all buried at Greenwood, as well as Courtney from the number 2 construction battery. So there's some really interesting and kind of unknown stories up around Owen Sound, and lots of military focused stuff. So something for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so that's interesting. And that's on is that on your web page?
Yes, that's on our webpage under exhibits. There is currently the Military Heritage Trail and the In Their Steps, which focuses more on individual perspectives of people who used to live and work and walk around Owen Sound. And then the Greenwood Cemetery Loop is going to be up very shortly as well.
That one would be interesting to go and look at. Yeah. Now, when you go into the Billy Bishop home museum,
Yes,
I'm not sure I guess museum. There's in the hall, there was I don't know if it was a desk or just a long, I'll say desk, table where they had pictures of different vets and their stories. Do you still have that?
We do still have that. We call that area of the museum the Hallway of Heroes.
Okay.
And right now, actually, we're working on getting it a little bit more spruced up, more digitized. Actually, we're going to get a big touch screen that we'll have on the wall, and then you can go through all of the veterans that we've honored for honoring our local veterans. And there's over 200 veterans we've honored for honoring our local veterans. And then there's also our Tree of Remembrance campaign where people purchase light bulbs on our Christmas tree in honor or memory of veterans. So we have all of their pictures and profiles as well that you can go through. It's a huge resource, and those binders in the hallway are kind of cumbersome. So with the touch screen, you'll be able to search by name and you'll be able to see it all, and it'll be in a slideshow, and it's just going to be a really wonderful upgrade.
Now, when you buy a light bulb for the tree, does it have to be a local veteran?
No, it can be anyone.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah. It's very cute.
I like that. Yeah, because now of course you've seen all those I guess is it from the War Memorial? You can research the attestation, or how do you say the word, attestation papers?
Yes.
Yeah. From World War I, World War II, and all of that. That's a remarkable resource too.
Yeah, that's through the Library and Archives Canada website. You can search soldiers from the First World War and see all of their documentation, which is the attestation papers and their medical records and all their pay and everything like that. So it's a huge research resource, and you can see when they left Canada, what ship they were on, where they arrived overseas, everything like that. It's really, really quite wonderful. It was a huge project that Library and Archives Canada did and really pushed for to get out for the 150th in 2017.
Yes, and even their journals that they kept, I think, what do they call them? War journals, or I think, or whatever. Yeah. And they kept all those, the papers, like they photocopied them.
Yeah, they're scans. They're very, very high resolution scans. So you can see every speck of dirt, everything on these paper.
Yeah. Yes, and their signature, when they went over. I have my grandfather's. He was in World War I. And it's amazing to see their signature, like when they went over.
And the description.
Yeah, how tall they were, how much they weighed, their health. Yeah. And in World War I perspective, like in those years, how their health was. It's just, and their mother's names. Like when you think how young they were to be going over there.
Just wild. If you look up Tommy Holmes, he's a Victoria Cross recipient from the area. He was 5'5", 130 pounds, and he listed his occupation as chicken plucker.
Yeah, chicken plucker. Yeah.
Quite a character.
I know. And they went over there and they were given the worst possible clothing to wear, like cotton, heavy cotton that, of course, was going to get damp and wet. And then they were in trenches.
Yeah.
And they all got sick. And, of course, there wasn't any antibiotics to give them. And then the flu broke out.
Yeah. Lest we forget the Spanish influenza that broke out right at the end of the war there. So if you made it through the war, you're probably going to get the influenza as well. And like you said, I don't think we really realized how far we've come medically. During the First World War, they couldn't even do blood transfusions. So if you were in trouble, you were in real trouble.
Yeah, it was when you read these papers, and I mean, I've read a lot of them because I'm so fascinated with this stuff. And it's incredible to think that they went over there. not knowing what they were getting into, to no, really, like you say, no medical care, really, very primitive medical care, like in today's standards. And they really did go to fight for freedom. That's what they thought they were fighting for. That's what they believed. And if they survived, oh my goodness, was it luck? Was it really chance?
I think a lot of it was luck.
Chance, yes, it really was, and they really were heroes, and to be so brave, like I just can't imagine. What got you interested in doing this sort of work? I just get fascinated when I hear you doing all these things, and I think, what makes you want to do this? What gets you interested in this?
Well, I studied a lot of history in my undergrad, and I lived overseas for a little bit in Scotland and in the UK, where I studied more history. And I just was always interested in museum and museum work. And really, unfortunately, one of the steady currents throughout human history is conflict and war. So it is something that unfortunately pulls us together as well as apart. And it really reflects, the breadth of human history. You can see the movement of people, the creation of borders, but when you come right down to it, after the grand scheme of things, it is right down to that one individual soldier, usually a very young man. So, it really makes it personal.
It does. And it tells us where we came from. Like, if we don't know where we came from, how do we know where we're going to? But do we ever really learn the lessons?
It doesn't seem like we learn them very often, but it doesn't mean there isn't hope. You never know.
That's right. And I liked what you said earlier about, like, I said military, but I really did also mean, like, when you said conflict, it affects the people that have to move. There's always people that have to move as a result of conflict. So we have immigration and emigration, and so there are people that are affected. And what does war or conflict mean to you? What does peace mean to you? So there is more than just the soldier that is affected. There are the people that are living in war zones, war conflict zones. So we have to talk and think about them too. So it's interesting that you are interested in those too, and we'll hear about those stories too, I'm sure, in days to come.
Keep an eye open. I'll be saying when the grand opening is, and I'll make sure to keep the website updated and our Facebook and Instagram as well, so people can hear these stories for themselves and come and see the new exhibit.
That's great. Well, we thank you for doing all this work and keeping the museum, running and of interest to us, even though, over the last 2 years, it's been difficult. So thank you for joining us here today. And we will watch on Facebook and Instagram and the website for all of these exhibits as they come to fruition. And thank you for joining us here on Community Close-Up. And during May, we celebrate nurses. It's Nurses Week during May. I'm wearing my RNAO pin, Registered Nurses Association of Ontario. So think of a nurse, think of nurses that you love during Nurses Month. And remember, they helped us get through the pandemic, and they're still doing it. Yes. So thanks for joining us here on Rogers TV. And remember, it's your community, so take part. Join us again here on Rogers. Bye for now. I'm Sharen Skelly. Thank you for joining us.
Bye. Thank you, Sharon.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
What kind of show do you want to see on Rogers TV? What interests you? Log on to rogerstv.com, fill out a show proposal, and tell us about your segment idea. We want to know what you want to see. Rogers TV, only on Rogers.
A Heart and Home original series. When Calls the Heart returns with an all-new season.